Hello, this is Mrs. Collier. I'm going to go over the reading, writing, and companion. I'm going to go ahead and open it up with Cami. Okay, so we're going to start with our story. It is called The Impossible Pet Show. So looking at the picture and hearing that title, it makes me wonder, what will this story be about? Remember, you have a place you can take notes, write words, key details, all of that here on the side. Our essential question is, how can you use what you know to help others? So let's see what it has to say. Now, this is a realistic fiction story, and realistic fiction means that it is fiction, so it is fake, but it could happen in real life. It's not make believe completely, it's something that could happen. So I'm going to start reading. My best friend Carla Hernandez called me on Thursday afternoon. Daniel, meet me in the park near the playground in 5 minutes. I have a great idea. This worried me because Carla's great ideas almost always mean big trouble for me. I dashed outside and jogged to the park. When I saw Carla, my heart sank because her gigantic dog Pedro was with her. I liked everything about Carla except Pedro. I've never had a pet, so I feel uncomfortable and nervous around animals. I'm embarrassed to say that I'm afraid of Carla's dog. Carla smiled. Isn't this the perfect location for a pet show? She asked. All the kids in the neighborhood can show off their pets' talents and demonstrate the things they do well. There are plenty of comfortable benches for our parents and friends to sit on, and since you don't have a pet to enter into the show, you will be the announcer. So, first, let's take a look at our vocabulary words. They are the ones highlighted in yellow. We have embarrassed. And he says, I'm embarrassed to say I'm afraid of Carla's dog. That means it's just something that makes he's shy and he feels uncomfortable if people know. We've all been embarrassed. Then talents, and it says all the kids in the neighborhood can show off their pets' talents and demonstrate the things they do well. So when we look at the word talents and it says and demonstrate the things they do well, they're explaining to us what talents are. Now, that may not be the exact definition that you have in your vocabulary words, but we know that as long as we're saying basically the same thing, it's okay because it's still defining the word. So, talents are a way to demonstrate the things that you do well. Let's take a look at our questions. Paragraph 1, point of view. Circle the word that shows how Daniel feels about hearing Carla's great ideas. So I'm going to look at paragraph 1 and I'm going to find the word. And there it is. So you will circle that word. Paragraph 2, ask and answer questions. Why isn't Daniel happy to see his best friend Carla underline the text evidence? So this is paragraph 2. So why is he not happy to see her? See if you can find it, and you will underline it. And paragraph 3, dialogue. Why does Carla think Daniel should be the announcer? So now dialogue is when people are talking back and forth. And here we have her telling him about the pet show and then her telling him why he should be the announcer. So you will type that in. That says draw a box around what Carla says. Now I'm going to do that one because that's something we haven't dealt with as much. So some of the things that Carla says will have quotation marks. It says Carla smiled. Isn't this, whoops, let me thin that down a little bit. She says, isn't this the perfect location for a pet show? So if you'll notice, these are quotation marks. You have them at the beginning of when someone is talking and at the end, and that's how we know they are saying something, and that represents dialogue. Now, those of you who watch the video regularly know that normally I underline and type and do everything just as you should do it. But I'm trying to kind of give you a little more independence. So we'll read it together and we'll talk about the questions, but then I want you to find the actual answer just because I have confidence in your abilities. Let's go on down to the next page. I'm sorry, I apologized, but that's impossible. Crowds make me nervous and unsure. Besides, I don't like animals, remember? That's nonsense, said Carla. There's nothing to be concerned about because you'll be great. Just then Pedro leaped up, slobbered all over me, and almost knocked me down. Yuck! Down, Pedro! Stay! I shouted. Pedro sat as still as a statue. Wow, you're good at that, said Carla. Now let's get started because we have a lot to do. By Saturday morning, I had practiced announcing each pet's act 100 times. My stomach was doing flip-flops by the time the audience arrived. The size of the crowd made me feel even more anxious. When the show began, I gulped and announced the first pet. It was a parakeet named Butter, whose talent was walking back and forth on a wire. When Butter finished, everyone clapped and cheered. So far, everything was perfect, and I was beginning to feel calmer and more relaxed. I realized that being an announcer wasn't so bad after all. So, again, we're going to start with air vocabulary words. And we have the word apologized. So, we've all had to apologize to someone, and because it's apologize, that's the past tense. So, that means he's already done it. So, we know what that word means. Then we have audience. My stomach was doing flip-flops by the time the audience arrived. And the audience, they are the people who are watching, in this case, the pet show. And our last vocabulary word on this page is realized. I realized that being an announcer wasn't so bad after all. That means he came to understand that really wasn't so bad after all. So let's look at our first question, ask and answer questions. Think of a question about Carla or Daniel and write it here. Now, the next thing you're supposed to do is underline text evidence that answers your question. So you want to make sure it's something that you can find text evidence to answer. I think that I would write something like, why doesn't Daniel want to be the announcer? And then I could answer with, crowds make him nervous and unsure. So remember to pick a question that you can answer from the text. Paragraph 2. Prefixes. Find the word nonsense. Circle the prefix. Use the prefix to figure out the meaning of the word. So here in paragraph 2, I'm looking for the word nonsense. Oh, paragraph 2, nonsense. So I look at it and I know that non is a prefix and sense is a word that can stand alone. So I'm checking myself that way. And non means basically not. So if it's nonsense, it doesn't make sense. It's not sense. Okay. And we're on to the next page. Then it was Carla and Pedro's turn. Sit, Pedro, she said, but Pedro didn't sit. Pedro was not paying attention to Carla. He was too interested in watching Jack's bunnies jump in and out of their boxes. Suddenly, Pedro leaped at the bunnies, who hopped toward Mandy and knocked over her hamster's cage. Pudgy the hamster escaped and began running around in circles while Kyle's dog, Jake, howled. This was a disaster, and I had to do something. Sit, I shouted at Pedro. Quiet, I ordered Jake. Stay, I yelled. Everyone, kids and pets, stopped and stared at me. Even the audience froze. Daniel, that was incredible, said Carla. You got the pets to settle down. That's quite an achievement. Sadly, that was the end of our pet show. But now I have more confidence when I have to speak in front of people, and even though I'm still nervous around animals, Pedro and I have become great friends, and I've discovered my talent too. So I like this story. We have a couple of vocabulary words we're going to go over first. We have attention. It says Pedro was not paying attention to Carla. And in the video on our spelling and vocabulary words, I commented that most of us have heard a teacher say, pay attention. And if you pay attention, you're watching, you're listening, and you are giving your full attention to understand what's going on. So Pedro was not paying any attention. He was not looking at Carla. He was not listening to her. He was not doing it as he was told. We have the word achievement, and Carla tells him that that was an achievement because he was able to settle down all the animals and people. So an achievement is when you're able to do something. Then we have confidence. He says, but now I have more confidence when I speak in front of people. Confidence is when you know that you can do something. And I have confidence in all of you that with just this little bit of guidance from the video, you can easily answer all of these questions because you're awesome third graders. Dialogue. Underline two things that characters say that real people might say. So remember I talked about how with dialogue, it's going to be when we have the quotation marks. So someone could really say, sit perro. And perro, by the way, means dog in Spanish. It's one of the few words I can remember from my high school Spanish days. And they would say that, and they might say quiet, and they might say stay, but all of these are things that someone might really say. And someone could even say that was incredible to another person. So these are just some of the things that could actually be said by someone. Then we have point of view. How have Daniel's feelings about being an announcer changed? And so you will type it here and then circle text evidence. So I'm going to circle some of the things that we can see. Says he has more confidence about speaking in front of other people. So that's how it has changed. He now has confidence, which he did not previously have. And I'm just going to circle the word confidence. And you're going to put that into your own words here. And then we're down here to our vocabulary. And I'll read over it and then you'll just answer the question in your own way. Achievement. It is a big achievement to fly a kite on a very windy day. What is your biggest achievement? So I don't know what your achievement may be, but I'm curious to read these. So tell me about your biggest achievement. Then we have apologized. Kate apologized for breaking the dish. When have you had to apologize for doing something? We have attention. It is important to pay attention to directions. How do you show your teacher you are paying attention in class? Audience. The audience clapped and cheered at the end of the play. When have you been part of an audience? Confidence. Jody read her report calmly and with confidence. What does it mean to have confidence? Okay, and this where we go back to page 106 and draw a box around a word you think is interesting. You can do that and you can type the word here. I'll even put a little blank here for you to put your word because we don't have a writer's notebook. So you can put your word there. So you'll go back up to page 106 and you'll just choose a word. And if you have a dictionary, that's awesome. But if you don't, you can always just Google, type in the word, and you can type in definition behind it or I saw the word announcer, or meaning, and it will give you the meaning of the word so that you can type it in. Let's go down to our next page. We have embarrassed. Tia was embarrassed when she forgot her lines in the play. When have you felt embarrassed? And unfortunately, we all have, so I know we can all come up with something. Realized. My soccer team celebrated when we realized we had won the game. Describe a time when you realized something. Talents. One of Lila's talents is playing the violin. What is one of your talents? And I'm very interested to read these because where you guys are online and I don't get to talk to you as much, I want to learn more about you. So I'm very interested in finding out about your talents, your achievements, and even when you felt embarrassed. Let's take a look at this section under prefixes. A prefix is a word part added to the beginning of a word. A prefix changes the word's meaning. The prefixes un, non, and im mean not or opposite of. Find text evidence. On page 106, I see the word unsure. It has the root word sure and the prefix un. I know that sure means certain and the prefix un means not. The word unsure must mean not certain. And then they have given us the sentence. Now it's your turn. Use the prefixes in each word to figure out the meaning. So we have uncomfortable, and it's on page 105. So we go back to page 105. And we are looking for, sorry, let me double check what word we're looking for on each page. Uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. I'm going to scan for it. Uncomfortable. I've never had a pet, so I feel uncomfortable and nervous around animals. So we know un means not, and hopefully most of us know that comfort, or in this case, comfortable, means that, you feel safe, secure. I always think of comfortable, come home, put on my sweats and get comfy. So if you're uncomfortable, you are not comfortable, you are not content often too. So you would type something along those lines here. And then on page 106, you have the word impossible. So we'll go back up. And I'm going to look for the word impossible. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, but that's impossible. Crowds make me nervous and unsure. Besides, I don't like animals, remember? So we know that the im, that prefix, means not, and we know possible means that something can happen. So if it's impossible, it's just not going to happen. If you run into trouble on this, you can message me and we'll have a Google Meet. I'm glad to help you. Thank you.